This is Colin Gray from the podcasthost.com, and you're listening to Jane Jackson Careers.
Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast that takes your career to the next level. Here's your host, Jane Jackson, author of Amazon Careers bestseller, Navigating Career Crossroads.
Well, hello and welcome back to my Careers podcast, where I talk about careers and everything to do with the job search process. Now, today, what I want to cover is your verbal pitch, because when it comes to job interviews and the networking process, you need to be clear about who you are and what you've got to offer. Because if you approach anyone regarding a job without knowing how to position yourself, you'll do yourself a disservice and you'll waste a lot of time. So let's spend some time on your approach and what you're going to say. You'll need an introductory positioning statement when speaking with recruitment consultants or potential hiring managers and with your general network. No one will know what you want and how he or she can help you if you are unclear when talking about yourself. So get it clear in your own head first. Most of my clients have told me that creating their introductory positioning statement is the hardest part of the job search process. Why? Because most of us feel uncomfortable talking about ourselves when looking for a job. In fact, many of us feel uncomfortable talking about ourselves anyway. But you're going to have to do it when you're job hunting. People will want to know about you. Many of my clients have told me that they don't want to sell themselves, they feel a bit awkward, and they don't like big noting themselves. What about you? Do you feel that same way? If you feel reluctance too, all I can say is that if you don't express yourself clearly and let a potential hiring manager know what a great candidate you are, you're not going to get very far in the process. If you don't sell yourself, who's going to do it for you? But don't fear, talking about your suitability for a role doesn't have to be a hard sell. What it is it's all about stating facts, highlighting the skills and experience that are relevant for the role that you're targeting, and also letting your personality shine through. So what I want to tell you about is the 60 to 90 second introduction, much longer than that, and it's going to be too long. So what would you say if someone said, "Tell me about yourself"? This short introduction is your answer. It's an important part of any networking meeting or interview. It provides an overview of what you've done and what you're looking for in a clear, concise, and compelling capsule of information. This introduction shares your employment background and aspirations, including what your job title is, your specialty, and what your tangible accomplishments have been. You also share your current situation, which means that your listener knows how they can help you. If you deliver it well, your intro can pique your listener's interest. And at under 90 seconds, you'll stay succinct and to the point. We don't want you to be rambling on for too long. So when can you use this brief introduction? First of all, to respond to the question, "Tell me about yourself." You can use it during an informational interview or networking meeting. You can use it for pre-screening interviews. They're usually over the phone. You can use them at job interviews, whether it's with a recruiter or with a potential hiring manager or team members who want to find out a bit more about you. And also in social situations. Every moment, if you're looking for a job, every moment from now on is a potential networking opportunity. And of course, whenever there's an occasion to market yourself, use your introduction. Now, these are opportunities for you to clearly articulate your career goals and at the same time create a really positive, lasting impression with whoever's listening to what you've got to say. So how do you do it? I've got a suggested format which you can use. Obviously, you can change it. But what seems to work well, I find, is you start with your past experience. Then you go into your current situation. Then you talk about the future. And you end it with a question so that the conversation ball keeps bouncing back and forward. So let's start with your past experience. Present the big picture, and your listener may ask you to elaborate on anything that's of interest to them. Include here your most recent career history, an overview of the type of work you've been performing, and the type of company, industry, and functional experience you possess. Have you got it? Keep it relevant. Now, next is your current situation. Here you explain why you're looking for work. Talk about this in a brief, matter-of-fact way and focus on the positive side of the change. It's important to have made the internal emotional transition yourself so that you're able to move forward focusing positively. Now, if you've experienced a redundancy or something's happened in your role and you're not happy and you need to make the transition, here's where you really need to have your story comfortably rolling off your tongue so that it doesn't end up being an emotional conversation. Now, next, we talk about the future. So, if in a networking meeting, talk about your target industry, the position, function, or role that you're interested in. Mentioning the names of organizations that you're targeting or meeting with can also be helpful. And it's easier for people to make connections and offer support when they have specific information. However, if it's an interview situation, focus on the skills and knowledge required for the role for which you are being interviewed. Everything is to do with being relevant. And then finally, once they know about your past, why you're looking for a job in the future and what your hopes are, then you end it with a question. For example, something like if it's in a networking meeting, as you're familiar with the industry, in what other areas do you think there might be opportunities for a person with my experience? Or you might ask, in your experience, what do you consider to be the most critical skills in this area that I'm exploring? Or you could say, this role you have sounds a really close match to what I'm looking for, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it. Can you tell me more about this position? Asking a polite question promotes a two-way discussion. It's the component that will most likely change depending on the reason you're using your introduction. Okay, so here's an example of how you might structure your introduction. So let's start with the past. I'm a sales manager with 8 years experience in the manufacturing industry, and I've also got extensive sales training experience, having led and mentored sales teams of up to 30. Most recently, I was a sales manager at Everest Manufacturing. My strengths are in creating and building new sales territories and relationship management. In my most recent role, I grew the business by 40% within 6 months. So if this is in a job interview, that's quite a good amount of information. Obviously, in a networking situation, you're going to abbreviate that greatly. Now, the current situation. Here you could explain something like this. You may be aware that due to the merger with Summit Commercial Enterprises, there's been a duplication of roles and my position was made redundant. This has actually given me an opportunity to assess what I want next in my career. Okay, it's not emotional. Now, then we talk about the future. I have a keen interest in sales, account management, and developing sales teams. Leveraging my previous success in the manufacturing industry, I am now targeting global manufacturing companies that would benefit from my extensive Australian industry network and business development capabilities. Here, you've put it in a nutshell what you're looking for so people know what box to put you in. And then you end with a question. With your experience in manufacturing here in Australia and overseas, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and will appreciate any advice or suggestions that you could provide for me. Okay, so it's not so hard really, it's just a conversation. So your introduction needs to be flexible, customized and responsive to the agenda and the needs of the listener. This means your introduction will change depending on whether you're at a networking event, an interview, or over the phone. It's important to be able to expand your story when the opportunity presents itself, or to hold back a bit if it's more appropriate. Sometimes you don't want to say too much because you might be going completely off track. Now, if you've identified your values, your motivators, your skills and knowledge, and your achievements, then you already have all the content you need to create a compelling verbal pitch or introduction. So, to get you started, I've actually got a template that you can use. So if you'd like more information, you can either have a look at my book, Navigating Career Crossroads, which is available on Amazon.com or at navigatingcareercrossroads.com. Or if you'd like just a copy of my verbal pitch template, send me an email at jane@janejacksoncoach.com. Just drop me a note and I'll send you a copy of that template so you can use it. Now, if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to subscribe to my podcast. And also, if you like what I've been providing to you, please leave a review, because it helps to boost the popularity of the podcast, and I'll be able to reach more people who need a bit of guidance and advice as well. So until next time, I wish you all the best, and remember, believe in yourself and create magic. Bye.
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejacksoncoach.com.